Then if they lose to Coinbase and Ripple, what's the precedence to go after any coin individually? It'll be obliterated.
All right. Well, this scenario could see Gensler replaced by SEC's crypto mom, a former SEC official. John Reed Stark believed he could throw in the towel depending on a possible scenario to play out in 2024. Just happening in the next year here, just mere months away. So this is depending on a key election in the U.S. in 2024. So it looks like he is worried about the Republican president could drastically shift the crypto regulatory tide. So yeah, if we get a Republican president, maybe going to be on his way out. Will the SEC approve of any of the recent Bitcoin spot ETF applications? People often ask for his opinion here, which is an interesting, important question. Here's his current take. He breaks it down. But he did note that Hester Pierce, I think his first name is Hester,
Which
right?
we found out it's Purse, right? She pronounces it Purse for some reason.
Oh, well, there is no I before the E there. Okay. So
Yeah,
maybe.
My purse,
maybe.
I don't know you.
Well, I think that's how
Yes.
it's spelled. But yeah, when Ben called her office, it said, "You've reached the office of Hester Purse." So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So Stark noticed Purse's history of dissent and opposition to many of the related crypto-related enforcement, explained that if Purse were to become the head of the SEC, the world should expect that most of the U.S. SEC crypto-related enforcement and disruption would grind to a screeching halt. So that is a good thing. If so Purse gets in, looks good for crypto. But until such a time when a Republican sits in the Oval Office, John Stark said it's unlikely the regulator to become any more friendly towards crypto, predicting that they'll reject the current swath of Bitcoin ETFs for a range of compelling reasons, aka reasons that they pulled out of the you-know-what. All right, Senator Lummis is backing Coinbase against the SEC. Just more arrows going against Gary Gensler here.
Mhm.
She's a prominent advocate for cryptocurrency. She filed an amicus brief on the 11th to support the Coinbase exchange against the SEC's lawsuit there. She maintained that the responsibility for regulations lies with Congress, not the SEC. Here's her quote, I believe. Now, this might be Coinbase's quote. "The transaction over Coinbase's platform and Prime are not and do not involve contractual undertakings to deliver future value, reflecting the income, profits, or assets of a business. They are commodity sales, with the obligations on both sides to charge entirely the moment the token is delivered in exchange for payment," aka talking about the Orange Grove case where the SEC says everything's a commodity depending on, are you working towards its profit? Hey, then it's not a commodity, it's now a security. I think they're pretty clear. But yeah, now we have we have a senator coming in filing an amicus brief on behalf of Coinbase against a governmental agency. I would say, call me crazy, I would say that's pretty bullish.
Yeah.
Pretty bullish for the court case there. So I'm rooting for Coinbase. So I think we're all rooting for Coinbase. All those coins, they got beat down pretty hard. I have a big bag of a lot of those coins. I think there's a little opportunity there if you think Coinbase is going to win against the SEC. I do, but I'm not a lawyer.
they have the backing of Larry Fink and BlackRock, so it's hard to bet against Coinbase.
Yeah, do you want to bet against BlackRock?
Yeah.
I probably don't.
No.
One more thing on the SEC here. Law expert says the brief filed by 6 law scholars absolutely shreds the SEC's theory, where they go over what is an investment contract and whether it requires contractual undertaking, contradicting the SEC. Here we have someone with the same length of neck as DZ there. So he said the amicus brief filed by the law scholars is devastating for the SEC. Murphy noted that the amicus brief absolutely shreds their investment contract theory. So this was followed by law professors and scholars who are experts in security laws and related fields and probably have a big bag of Bitcoin. They include UCLA, Boston University, Fordham Law University, University of Chicago, and Yale Law School professors. They noted that after the Howey decision, there's a common thread in how investment contracts were defined. The thread was that investor must be promised by virtue of his or her investment an ongoing contractual interest in the income, profits, or assets of the enterprise. When you have a token, you do not have those things. So good news for the SEC. For Coinbase. We're rooting for Brian Armstrong, rooting for the bald brother, the bald deployer there. I'm rooting. I think I feel pretty good about it, though. How about you?
Yeah, I was a little worried before the tight relationship with BlackRock, I'm going to be honest, but I just don't see Larry Fink and BlackRock being
I have a question for you. There's some coins. There's ADA was on there, Filecoin, Polygon. There's I think about 48 coins listed in the SEC versus Coinbase lawsuit.
Yes.
Coinbase wins. What happens to those 48 currencies?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if does the SEC try to go after every one individually the way they went after Ripple and XRP. I don't think they can, and Gary's even kind of alluded to they're going to pause new lawsuits with crypto. They're going to go after AI. So I don't think it's going to happen. But at the same time, I don't think there's a winning strategy for any of those things, especially with the XRP decision. Then if they lose to Coinbase and Ripple, what's the precedence to go after any coin individually? It'll be obliterated. So
yeah, Sand is one of the tokens. I see someone talking about Sand as well. We're not going to get 100% pump, is my opinion here. So when we had the XRP news with the SEC, all the crypto attention was on one coin. Now when we have a Coinbase win over SEC, I'm saying win, all the attention will be on 48 coins. And so I don't think all the dollars are going to flow into those. Not everyone's picking one coin, and not everyone's going to invest in all 48 coins. So maybe 20% pumps. I'm gonna throw out a number here.